Hello guys, in this video we're gonna discuss an important variant of polymorphic ventricular tachycardia, that is torsades de pointes. Polymorphic VT in turn is a variant of ventricular tachycardia. The name polymorphic means different morphology of the QRS complexes. No two QRS complexes will look the same either in an axis or duration or in amplitude. Like here, one QRS complex is different from other. Some have smaller amplitude, some have bigger amplitude, some have shorter duration, and some have longer duration. And the commonest cause of this polymorphic ventricular tachycardia is myocardial ischemia. It is seen mostly in 1 to 3 days of an episode of MI. Torsades de pointes (TDP) in turn is a variant of polymorphic ventricular tachycardia which occurs when there is QT prolongation. And the PVT is called torsades de pointes when the morphology of the QRS complexes look like they twist around an isoelectric line. The isoelectric line is measured from the preceding T wave to the next P wave. From this previous T wave to the next P wave. Here the isoelectric line is indicated by a green line around which these waves twist around like a party streamer, and the outcome will look like this. So this specific TDP to be diagnosed, first it should have the evidence of both polymorphic appearance and also it should have QT prolongation. So when do we call QT interval is prolonged? QT interval normally in males is from 360 to 390 milliseconds, and in females it is 370 to 400 milliseconds. One major issue with QT interval is if heart rate is like 120, then QT interval is very short. If heart rate is like 70 to 80, then QT interval is quite normal. If someone has bradycardia, for example, in athletes there is a low resting heart rate, but they are absolutely fine. But in them, the QT interval will be abnormally prolonged due to the low heart rate. So this QT interval grossly varies with the heart rate. So it doesn't give a correct depiction of whether the QT interval is prolonged or not. So in order to overcome this, a new concept of corrected QT interval called as QTC is introduced. In corrected QT interval, the QT interval is standardized to a normal heart rate of 60 beats per minute. So whatever may be the baseline heart rate of that individual, but corrected QT interval will always measure the QT interval with respect to the standardized heart rate of 60 beats per minute. And this QTC can be calculated using different formula. There is not a specific standardized formula, but there are like 3 or 4 formulae used to calculate the QTC. Of this, the most commonly used formula is a Bezet's formula. In this, QTC is calculated by the measured QT divided by the square root of RR interval. RR interval is calculated by measuring the distance between two successive QRS complexes. In a QRS complex, always a positive deflection is depicted by capital R if it's of higher amplitude, or a small r if it's of lower amplitude. So we get the RR interval, and QT interval is calculated by the starting of the negative deflection in a QRS complex, which is denoted by Q, and from that to the end of T wave. This interval is the QT interval. So when do we call the QT interval is prolonged? If in males the corrected QT interval is more than 440 milliseconds, or in females, if it's more than 460 milliseconds, then we call QTC as prolonged. And if QTC is more than 500 milliseconds, then it's associated with an increased risk of torsades de pointes. And we call the QTC interval shortened when it is less than 350 milliseconds. As a general rule of thumb, the normal QT interval is less than half of the preceding RR interval. Half of the preceding RR interval. This QT interval will usually be less than half of that RR interval. So what causes this QT interval prolongation? There may be many reasons, including congenital and acquired. Of this, congenital long QT syndrome, denoted by LQTS. This is usually due to defects in ion channels. These defects in the ion channels either may be in the calcium or in potassium or in sodium channels. Due to these defects, repolarization will be prolonged. And coming to acquired causes of the long QT syndrome, there are several reasons. Of that, more important ones are due to medications and due to cardiac conditions and metabolic disorders. Metabolic disorders like hypokalemia, hypomagnesemia and hypocalcemia, hypothyroidism, etc. will cause long QT syndrome. And cardiac conditions like MI, within the first week, will cause QT prolongation. It may not be seen after a week or two, but in the first week after an episode of MI,
QT interval is prolonged.
And it increases the risk of polymorphic ventricular tachycardias. This is one of the main reasons for ICU mortality after admission of an MI patient. A wide range of medications do cause prolongation of the QT interval, of which some of the important ones are antibiotics belonging to the class of macrolides like azithromycin or erythromycin, etc., fluoroquinolones, and antifungal drugs. Antimalarials like chloroquine do cause prolongation of QT interval. And many CNS drugs like antipsychotics, antidepressants, SSRIs, etc., they cause prolongation of the QT interval. And the most ironical thing is antiarrhythmics, which are basically given to prevent this arrhythmias. They decrease the heart rate and thereby increase the duration of QT. Not all classes of antiarrhythmics do cause this, but class 1A and class 3 of antiarrhythmics cause this QT interval to prolong. Other causes for QT prolongation are like hypothermia, HIV infection, intracranial disease, etc. So why in the first place do all these medications or some congenital disorders will prolong the QT interval?
Firstly, we will learn some basics regarding cardiac action potential.
The first phase of a cardiac action potential starts with depolarization, in which majorly sodium channels open and there is an influx of sodium ions into the cell. So due to this positive charge influx, there is a rise in the membrane potential, and a minor contribution is done from calcium ions, which also move into the cell. And in phase 2, potassium channels start to open, and these potassium channels will allow potassium to go outside the cell. But this phase of repolarization is divided into two, which in phase 2 the repolarization is a bit slower and then it picks up the pace, and in phase 3 repolarization is rapid. This occurs because in phase 2 the calcium channels are still open and the positive charge loss due to potassium moving outside will somewhat be counteracted by calcium influx. But in phase 3 these calcium channels close and the potassium will rapidly go out of the cell, leading to rapid repolarization phase. In phase 4 there is a bit of hyperpolarization due to the leaky potassium channels, and then the action potential reaches to its baseline, which is called as the resting potential. Usually until phase 3, even if cardiac muscle is stimulated, action potential cannot be initiated because
Cardiac muscle will be in absolute refractory period.
In this absolute refractory period, a second action potential cannot be initiated. Coming to pathology of torsades de pointes, Prolonged QT interval directly denotes a prolonged repolarization phase. Due to this prolongation in the repolarization phase, this prolongation gives a chance for the development of early after depolarizations. What's meant by an early after depolarization? Either in phase 2 or phase 3, due to the defects in ion channels, in phase 2, calcium channels opening is abnormally prolonged. So this leads to prolonged phase 2. Or in phase 3, due to defects in ion channels, sodium channels will start opening in phase 3. So there is a positive charge influx, and this leads to prolongation of phase 3. And when this phase 2 or phase 3 is prolonged, look at this diagram. In repolarization, either in phase 2 or phase 3, if it's prolonged, either may be due to increased latency of calcium channels or opening of the sodium channels in phase 3. Depolarization, which is supposed to happen after completion of phase 4, starts very early, either in phase 2 or in phase 3. The absolute refractory state, which is maintained until phase 3, will be lost, and cardiac myocyte will be stimulated prematurely. These early after depolarizations, when they reach the threshold, they stimulate the cardiac muscle, leading to a premature ventricular contraction called as PVC. When these EADs, if they don't reach the threshold, they can be seen in the ECG as tall U waves, and if these reach the threshold, they manifest as a premature ventricular contraction. We have learned that Torsades de Pointes can be caused due to various reasons, either by medications or some cardiac conditions, or in metabolite abnormalities, or in bradyarrhythmias. For a classical TDP, Torsades de Pointes to occur, the characteristic initiation sequence is pause dependent, and it also exhibits R on T phenomenon. What does this pause dependency and R on T phenomenon means? Have a look at this image. This image is the rhythm strip of a patient with drug-induced TDP. Here, after a normal QRS complex, we learned that due to prolonged QT interval and due to early after depolarizations, there is a development of ectopic beats called PVCs. After a normal QRS complex, due to that phenomenon of EADs, a PVC has developed. After this PVC, there will be a long pause before a normal QRS complex again. And when this characteristic pattern of a short interval before the PVC and a long interval after the PVC before normal QRS develop, then at the end of the normal QRS complex, the abnormal PVC will overlap on the T wave, and this gives rise to a Torsades de Pointes. This characteristic short, long and short ventricular cycle will be the initiating factor for TDP. This characteristic initiation is given by the names of pause dependent TDP or a TDP with R on T phenomenon. Why is it called pause dependent? Because after the ectopic PVC, there is a long post ectopic pause, which characteristically occurs
before the development of TDP. The onset of TDP is often preceded by sequence of short, long, short RR intervals, so-called pause-dependent TDP. And this R on T phenomenon is explained by after the normal QRS complex there is a T wave on which this ectopic R wave has overlapped. Hence the name R on T phenomenon. Even if it's an ectopic, a positive deflection is always denoted by capital R. So this positive deflection is overlapping the T wave, so it's called as R on T phenomenon. To be clear on this, we will see a rhythm strip from Harrison explaining TDP. This part A is an ECG of 2:1 AV block. We can see by the arrows not all P waves are progressing to QRS. Some P waves are being blocked. Every alternate P wave is blocked, so the block is 2:1 block. Due to this block, the QT interval is abnormally prolonged, which is way more than our threshold of 440 milliseconds. So this patient is a potential candidate for developing TDP. This B shows the telemetry rhythm strip of the same patient. Here we can see after a normal QRS complex there is a development of PVC, and we have learned that this PVC is due to EADs, which in turn is due to defective ion channels. After the development of PVC there is a long pause before the next QRS complex, and shortly after the normal QRS the ectopic is overlapping the T wave and it initiates the TDP rhythm. So now we can understand what's meant by short, long, short RR interval and pause dependent TDP, and what's an R on T phenomenon. We can see these three things in this rhythm strip. There is characteristic short, long and short interval before the development of TDP, and this development of TDP is characteristically dependent on this long post-ectopic pause, so it's called a pause dependent TDP, and the first ectopic is overlapping T, which explains the R on T phenomenon. That's the pathophysiology of TDP. And how do these patients present in a hospital setting? They typically present with a near syncope or a syncope or directly with a cardiac arrest. Usually a classical TDP is short-lived. But if this TDP is sustained, then these episodes degenerate to ventricular fibrillation, and this ventricular fibrillation is a serious condition which requires defibrillation. So PVCs and non-sustained VT, they often precede the episodes of sustained VT, which is a much more serious condition. So what's the treatment? If there are recurrent episodes, then IV administration of 1 to 2 grams of magnesium sulfate will usually suppress the recurrent episodes. If magnesium alone is ineffective, then we can try other different methods like increasing the heart rate either by isoproterenol infusion or by pacing. And why the increasing heart rate will help in suppressing the PVCs? Because automatically QT interval will be shortened, and this suppresses the PVCs, and which indirectly suppresses the VT recurrences. So these are the most important points regarding Torsades de Pointes, and thank you for watching.